All right, let's save you guys some money on beef. Okay, by now you guys ought to know that beef prices are pretty high. Consuming a lot of it, whether you're on a carnivore diet or on a regular diet and you just want to eat beef, it's important to figure out how to save a little money here. And so what I have done here is I've bought what's called a subprimal. This is actually a prime grade New York strip. I got it at Costco. The price for this one was $15.99 a pound. Now, when I compare that to pre-cut up New York strips, same exact meat, it was $19.99 a pound. So that's $4 a pound. So on this thing, I ended up saving about $60, and that adds up, particularly in this economy. Now, I'm going to show you how to process it, some of the supplies you may need. It's not, it's not that challenging to do, but it's a simple, easy idea, and it's very easy to do. Now, this was not sitting out at the counter. Okay, I literally knocked on the window there and said, "Hey, Mr. Butcher, hey, what do you guys got in the back?" And almost always they're going to have some of this stuff. They're going to have, whether it's going to be chuck rolls, or whether it's going to be New York strips, ribeyes, things like that. They're going to have what's called a subprimal, and you save a lot of money on this. And so this can be at Costco, at Sam. A lot of grocery stores will have these. Think about that when you're trying to save some money, particularly if you like eating steaks. Now, obviously you need a space to work on. I have, several cutting boards. So I've got this, pretty big old cutting board, which is easily going to accommodate this. This is about a 15-pound hunk of meat here. So that cutting board is important. Obviously, you're going to need a knife, whatever knife you have. And then, I like a sharp knife, so we're going to sharpen this thing up. We got a little strop board and a little rolling sharpening device, which I find helpful. And then, of course, you're going to want to have a place to store your steaks when you're done. I'm just using little Ziploc storage bags. They work fine. I'll show you how to use these, a little trick that helps to help them seal better. That's about it. Maybe some paper towels to clean up. The other thing I think is important is this piece of meat is kind of semi-frozen. I had it in the freezer about 2 hours. And what it does is, you don't want it rock solid, but you want it just firm. You want a little bit of firmness so you can cut better steaks. Step one, I'm just gonna sharpen this knife. I've got, like I said, this rolling sharpener here. It kind of holds. It's got a little magnetic holder that holds it at about 15 degrees, so I can make a pretty, even scraping of this device here. And so we're gonna do this, about 10, 15 times on each side. Then I'm gonna go ahead and switch it around to the other side. Same sort of thing on this side. Again, it's held at about 15 degrees, and you hold the knife down and just kind of work a way around. Let me go on the other side, actually. A sharp knife is actually a safer knife. When you have a dull knife, it tends to slip more. So you want a knife that will just kind of slice right through that meat. I got a little leather strop just to kind of finish that off there. Just kind of clean off the metal filings that came off of there. And you can see there's a little bit, I don't know if you guys can see that, there's a little bit of metal that, got onto the paper towel there. Okay, a lot of people like to ask me where I get my knives from. This one I just got from Costco probably about 4 or 5 years ago. It's pretty, nice all-purpose bullnose knife. I've got a lot of them as gifts. I think, if you got a friend that's a carnivore family member, a nice sharp knife is a pretty cool gift to use. So think about that. If you, maybe get somebody the carnivore diet book too, that might be a good Christmas gift as well. Okay, so I'm just gonna, obviously take the subprimal out of its packing here. Obviously some kitchen shears are another helpful tool to have in the kitchen. I recommend you guys get a nice pair of kitchen shears to facilitate, cutting up various things. It can be used to cut meat into little pieces as well. So anyway, we're gonna take this big old steak out of its packing here, and then we'll dispose of all the excess juice here. All right, again, this is where that paper towel comes in handy. So we have our steak, it's out of its wrapping. Again, I said it's sort of semi-frozen. Now the question is how thick do you want to cut them? Now I like steak thick enough so that it's easier to cook to like a nice medium rare temperature. When they're really thin, it's a lot harder to get that dialed in. You have a little less, space to work with, so to speak. And so typically maybe 1.5 inches, which for me is about around 2 fingers thick. So you can kind of lay 2 fingers there and get a kind of an idea of a starting point. And then you just kind of take your knife. It's a little bit frozen on the inside, but that's about perfect. You can see how it stays in place. It's not real rubbery. So that's actually a pretty good size thick steak here. I think this is probably closer to about 2 inches, but this is going to be a really nice steak for me. And then we're going to do the same thing, about 2 fingers over. And again, just kind of keep working our way through the steak. Now we're going to move the camera around here. We'll get the cameraman to do that. Actually, there is no cameraman. It's just me. So I'll move the camera and show you how this is coming through. Now, of course, when you're cutting up steak, you typically are going to get some interested parties to check it out. Usually Sasha, sometimes Maximus likes to join in to cheer me on. I'm not sure why they do that. Perhaps they're just trying to encourage me. All right, so we got just a few little scraps left over to make the last steak even. So guess who's going to get the scraps? Here you go, Sasha. Sit. 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 There you go. Maximus, come on. Maxie, come. Come here, boy. All right, sit. Sit. Okay, so I ended up with about, well, basically 12 steaks here. These are all, roughly 1.5-inch cut. If I was at a butcher and I was selling them, I would maybe trim these up a little bit more because I'm just eating them and I actually like the fat on there. I'm going to leave that alone. This is going to cook up really nice and taste really good. All right, so the last thing we're going to do is we're just going to, store them. So basically, as I mentioned, I'm going to use some of these little Ziploc bags and I'll show you a little trick on how to get a better seal on those. Okay, so I'm just going to take this steak here, throw it in a Ziploc bag here, rotate it, I guess, in a nice angle here. And I'm just going to seal it up about, 75% of the way sealed here. Leave a little bit of opening for air, and then I'm just going to submerge it underwater. And what we're going to do by that is we're pushing all the air out. And this is the same way I do it for sous vide. So I push all the air out, and then just do that final little bit of sealing there. So we've used this underwater submersion tank to basically more or less vacuum seal it. And so we don't have a lot of air in there, and this will go really nice in the freezer. You let it sit out there to dry off for a few minutes before you stick it in the freezer, and you're done. All right, guys, so there you go. I've got basically a dozen steaks, basically vacuum sealed in bags. I saved about $60, and it took me, basically about 20 minutes, to include cleanup time. Probably less if I wasn't filming it. So anyway, you can definitely save money. Do not be shy about asking the butcher, hey, let me have a subprimal. They don't care. Then they don't have to cut it up. And so remember, it is important to make a diet that's going to give you health work for you financially if you can. Now, again, obviously you can do ground beef. There are other options. But if you want to eat steaks, you can save, in my case, $4 a pound. That's pretty significant savings, particularly over a long course of time. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys have any tips for saving money in the comments. What is your favorite big piece of meat to cut up? And also, if you guys are interested in getting healthy, check out what we're doing at Rivera. We are saving lives. We're reversing diseases. We have physicians that care, that are going to help you every step of the way. Our physicians are trained in this stuff. They want to get to the root cause. Their goal is to get you off medication, and they understand how important nutrition is to health. All right, guys, see you next time.